Building the capacities for BlueTech innovation is our fourth and final panel of the day, and we have someone other than me moderating, which I love. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Alex Kopelian. You can tell me how to say it right, and give us a little background, and then hit the show. Thanks.
Cool. Hey everyone, my name's Alex. I'm one of the partners at IndieBio. We're a part of SOSV, which is a global venture capital firm, and IndieBio focuses on accelerating pre-seed companies across life sciences, material science, chemistry, and other difficult technologies in the real world. We kind of do anything across kind of the world of climate change, but oceans and BlueTech has been definitely one of those sectors, an area we want to do more in. So Vanessa, thank you for inviting me. Very happy to be here. And after all five panelists present, I want to open up to questions. If no one has a question, I'll lob some stuff out, but I'd rather have the audience drive. And with that, I will hand it off to Jim Cooper, who is one of the co-founders of Braid Theory, who will give a quick intro on what he's working on.
Hi everyone, I'm Jim. I am a co-founder at Braid Theory. Anne and I run our accelerator programs, and I'm going to kind of give you a bit of an overview of what we're up to at the moment. I do have an accent, so stop me if you are confused by what I'm telling you, or if I use the wrong word or pronounce it incorrectly. Do I just advance by pressing the arrow key? This is an old-looking machine here, so this one here. Oh, look at that! Terrific. All right, so we like to essentially link our startups, our entrepreneurs, with the market, and we see the market as being kind of a three-pronged system of adopters, investors, and influencers. We have high domain expertise within our team. We have about 9 people now working on our staff. We have a hybrid model of services, including strategic consulting. We do that for government and other corporates. So we have a consulting practice as well as some of the other commercialization support. We're located at LTC at the Port of Los Angeles, so we have an incubation campus. It's rather large, so we can fit a lot of startups in there. We do a lot of what I call our unique pedagogy. So some accelerator programming, as well as events, access to capital, some grant writing assistance, and some other value add stuff. We have a small biolab and some prototyping that we can do as well, but our main focus is commercialization. So our pathway to get there is through pilot projects. I'll explain a couple of those a little bit later on. So again, we have a vertically integrated model. We have facilities. We're finishing, hopefully closing our fund in January so that we can start deploying that capital out to startups that need it. We have a large event every year called Ignite 22. If you haven't been, please let me know. You should show up and go. We had about 70 companies that had exhibited this year. And it's on May the 4th, which is really handy because we can always say, May the 4th be with you to everyone. So we can kind of nerd out to that. We have a number of programs which I'll go over shortly. That includes our accelerator programs, as well as our pre-accelerator and our accelerator as a service that we provide to government. We do some business development and strategic consulting for our startups, and some of our scale-ups as well, of which we have probably about a dozen at the moment. So we like the integration model, the vertical integration model. We think it adds additional value. So I talked to you about our pedagogy. What is that? That's a big nasty word, pedagogy. It sounds like something that happens to your feet and you need to get it cut off or scraped off, right? It's essentially building out capability, capacity, intellectual capital, and working capital. We don't always say it's venture capital, because sometimes it's undiluted funds, sometimes it's pilot projects that are funded, sometimes it's other things as well. We like the idea of reducing risk and time to market, so kind of compressing that latency, translating that discovery to the marketplace. So we always look for the demand phase before we start accepting companies that come into our accelerator. There's no use funding them if there's no market. or if they're building something that no one wants. We like to pride ourselves on the fact that we've got rigor and methodology. So I unfortunately have the task of being the task master and kind of whip our startup teams into shape. And we have a deep mentor bench, including our advisors. And that's across, right now, that's across about a dozen areas. So from energy to synthetic biology, and I'll get to those in a minute too. Our strategic focus for the next couple of years has been kind of determined by the demand in the market. These are our areas that we're focusing on. Take a good look. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will focus in on one area, one aspect of the market shortly. Our programs, our current programs, we have the LA Blue program, Blue Plus Celsius, which is our synthetic biology, and Springboard Venture Studio. We have an open innovation platform as well, which allows us to do some work with university teams that have been sent to us care of the Department of Energy. A little bit more on that. We have some core programming for two Department of Energy programs, the Ocean Observing Prize and the Waves to Water Prize, in conjunction with NOAA. And we also do some work with the Canadian government, and we've run several startup programs with them as well. One that is in particular around market readiness for export. So using Southern California as kind of the export market and seeing what value exists there. That usually runs around kind of looking at creative destruction, how we build teams that have across various partners that might be in multiple universities, how we use the teams more effectively, and then some virtual incubation as well as some commercialization workshops. So we like to do it this way. We think that it's a more efficient way of driving commercialization. Some program descriptions. I'm obviously not going to go through this entire wow, geez, that is a lot of information. I didn't realize I'd put that much in. It didn't seem that much when I was actually doing the typing. I was just like listening to the music and typing away. But essentially, we do have 4 basic kinds of programs. We are developing a landing pad program as well. So as we open our and expand our offices overseas to Sydney and Barcelona, hopefully in the new year, we will have kind of a landing pad effect so companies can go back and forth to those various cities as needed. Some example pilot projects. We did some work with FredSense. They ultimately got some work at the Port of San Diego to do some work around their fantastic little biosensors that they have. Afenco was or is still a company that is from Canada. They do a stop-to-start technology for hybrid vehicles and yard tractors at ports. And Frog Creek Partners, this is by no means the only companies that we have, but these are some examples, pilot projects. And then we had a non-paid pilot project with Frog Creek Partners, say that 10 times fast. And that's it. I did have some stuff. I did have some stuff here on our synthetic biology stuff, but it appears that it has disappeared. I think it might have disappeared because of the... Yeah, it's disappeared because of the different formats of this computer against the... Doesn't matter. You can talk to me later about our synthetic biology work. I'd be happy to chat to you about it because I thought it was really cool. It's, I think, a unique area which very few people in the blue technology space are focusing on. So, with that, I will hand it back to Alex.
Very strategic way to have people come find you afterwards. You leave the hook, the sinker of synthetic biology as a topic. Cool. Next up, let me just find your slide deck here. We have Josh Carter from Washington Maritime Blue. coming to us from Seattle. And do we have your slides? Yes, we do. All right, go ahead. Perfect.
Thank you. First of all, thanks, Matt, for having us and inviting us here. We were part of the workforce, or not the workforce, the work small group yesterday, and had a great conversation. So I appreciate you inviting us again this year. My name is Josh Carter. I'm the director of Blue Ventures for Washington Maritime Blue. That essentially means I oversee all of our entrepreneurial programs. And I'm going to start a little bit about our origin story and how we got started. Governor Inslee in Washington State wanted to make the blue economy and propping up the blue economy a priority. And so he commissioned this report, the Washington State Strategy for the Blue Economy. And out of that report came various ways that we can do this work to prop up the blue economy in the state of Washington by way of these other clusters that exist all over the place, but they just don't simply exist in the US. So using sort of the cluster model as a benchmark, we created Maritime Blue. And we were the first cluster organization in the state. Now there are 9 others, ranging from biotech to aerospace to even there's a 5G edge cluster now. And so Maritime Blue is sort of the template that they used. We have a number of goals that were part of that report that we use to align our work: deep carbonization, blue innovation, working waterfronts, workforce development, and cluster coordination. And we talked a little bit about these multifaceted groups, that these touch points to get the work done. And so we kind of affectionately call this our quadruple helix approach, where we bring together academia and research and workforce, community orgs, government and public sector, and industry and business. And what that looks like is basically a logo farm of lots of really fancy logos. It's a little cleaner than Dr. Fu was earlier today, but nonetheless, still a lot of really interesting folks in this slide. Some of these in the top slide are large enterprise companies like Gloston or Kongsberg is also a member of Maritime Blue, was here earlier, but public partners, private partners, even folks from Scripps here. We just had a really cool collaborative summit up in Seattle last month, and Vanessa joined us. There was a representative for braid theory as well, so it was a lot of fun to do that collaborative work. I won't go through all of these in the interest of seeing the sunset. We could be here all day with all these various things that we do. I'll touch on a few things, but obviously the Blue Ventures is more relevant to the work that I do. We also do equity engagement, and that looks like workforce development. We go into underrepresented communities and put them on a path to career development in places they normally don't see themselves in. So not just the engineering spaces of a ship, but up in the pilot house. And then we have joint innovation projects. I'll share that in a second. And then strategic initiatives. Quiet Sound is a new project. We act sort of like a project manager, where we facilitate programs so that the shipping industry that goes through the Puget Sound voluntarily slow down so they don't impact the very fragile orca population in the Puget Sound. So we have a whale alert system. We let them know, and then they're able to better navigate where they can go around. Yeah, there's a whale. Absolutely. And then the Blue Hub, which is amazing. I wish I would have added some renderings here. We are actually taking the Port of Seattle's oldest building, gutting it, keeping the old growth beams, and putting the world's most energy efficient building in its place. And so that will act as our Maritime Innovation Center in the Port of Seattle. Some of the joint innovation projects, things like bringing back the mosquito fleet up in the San Juans in the form of zero emission fast foil ferries. They're carbon hold, electric powered, just carry passengers. And the first route will be between Bremerton and Seattle. So we're really excited that project's moving ahead. The Tacoma Tide Flats 5G network is the first, believe it or not, 5G network for the use of port operations on the Western Hemisphere. These are very common in places like Singapore and other, but we just don't have them here. So I'm really excited that project's going forward. Green hydrogen shore power for ship-to-shore power for green energy. The COVID-19 detection and planning literally kept the fishing fleet in Seattle afloat. doing vaccinations for all the sailors and folks in the fishing industry. So that was a huge win for us as well. And then now we're looking at offshore wind in collaboration with folks here in California. We talked a little bit about the youth or the workforce development, so I won't spend a lot of time here. I just want to show that this is really important work that we do. I'm really proud of this team. It's a really small, dynamic team, but they literally take kids from senior year. We were talking about it just a little bit ago about the need, and he was saying, you got to do this, you got to do that. You have to check in all those boxes. We do all of that, which is great. We get them in high school level. We've tracked them through their college years. And we pay them an internship as interns, and most of the time the companies match what we pay, so it's great. And these are the programs that are part of that, and so we're really excited that these programs are actually expanding, which is really exciting. And then back to Blue Ventures, we have actually 4 programs. I'll talk about 3 of them today. Our Washington Maritime Innovation Accelerators, our sort of marquee program. We've done 3 of these programs, and historically they've been free to go through. The companies go through them. We don't do a warrant. We don't ask for equity. It's just come and be part of this amazing program. We're changing that with our 4th cohort. We're actually creating a fund, which I'm really excited about. It's a $10 million fund, and that will be used as a vehicle to invest in the companies going forward. And so with that, we'll create an incubator. So there's an off-ramp for companies that are venture scale and companies that are not. I'll go through that later, but we're really excited about that. And then the Tacoma Incubator, the middle logo there, is our 1-year free program that is very geographical focused. It's in Tacoma. It's built by folks in Tacoma. I'm saying Tacoma multiple times so you get the process here. Like it's a very deliberate program, and we hope that companies stay in Tacoma and build their companies there. And that is in a building called the Center for Urban Waters. It's a collaboration between the city and the University of Washington, Tacoma, where they get access to a wet lab, which is one of the only wet labs in the area. So we've had companies like Aquaga, who eliminate PFAS or forever chemicals, go through that program and use the wet lab to test their technology. And then our new program, which is our One Ocean Innovation Accelerator, is where we bring our international companies and run them through a 12-week program. It's a brand new program. We had been getting a lot of inbound applications from international companies. We took CanScan from Canada in year 2. We took WeaveAir from Singapore in year 3. So we knew we were getting a lot of folks that wanted to go through our program, but we just needed a more deliberate place to put them. So this program is for later stage companies looking to expand in the US, and we use the One Ocean program to do that. And we spend time with the Department of Commerce to help them off-ramp into Washington State. And so these are the companies that have gone through some of the programs that are in this room. Probably recognize a few of the logos because we've had multiple companies go through other programs. For example, Algion on the bottom left has gone through Vanessa's Scripps program. So, and I know Ecosphere has gone through a few programs. So there's a lot of collaboration here, and we really pride ourselves on having a really good mentor-based program. I think that's part of our secret sauce, is that we have this amazing breadth of experience to come through and help these founders with their startups. And they're everybody from, well, this year we had Meta World Peace, who was famously with the Lakers, won a ring with Kobe, came and talked about mental health, if you can imagine that. And but it was a great, amazing, very vulnerable conversation, and the founders learned a lot. Our programs have had impact over the few years that we've run the program. You know, collectively they've raised over 450 million, and I'm proud to say that the jobs they've created is actually over 500 now. It's a little bit old, but I think it goes to the way we approach our programs. We don't just build a curriculum and run them through a standard sort of cookie cutter program. We get to know the founders first, and then we build the program around those deficiencies. And I think that's why the program has a bit more impact. Is I don't want to have a bunch of founders come in and they're great at marketing. I'm not going to put some subject matter expert at marketing in front of them, because it's going to be lost on everybody. So the things that we're looking forward to 2023 and beyond, again, focusing on our venture scale companies with this new Blue Ventures Fund 1, establishing an incubator program for Seattle, which we've done, starting the One Ocean Accelerator for 2023, the West Coast Blue Ecosystem Collaboration, which we kicked off in October. And hopefully we're back here very soon because I love the Pacific Northwest, but I like the sun as well. And then our Blue Ventures Alumni Summit. What we do is every year we bring together, and we haven't had very many alumni, but this year we got to do it, bring all the founders together again to further that impact, to sit down and figure out what else can we be doing to be helpful. So we bring all the alumni back for a few days to learn more about how they can raise more money or find more businesses or find more partnerships or even collaborate amongst themselves. Last year we had Silverback Marine, their aluminum boat builder, and Pure Watercraft, they're an electric outboard motor company, won a grant with the Port of Lopez to build the first ever all-electric pump-out vessel. And so we're getting a lot of collaboration, and we know that magic happens when our founders are all together. We're a small but mighty team, and it's we really do punch above our weight. We only have 2 people on the venture side, myself and Karina, and then just 3 people that run our workforce development stuff. And then just 2 people run all our projects. So we're really, really busy, but in the most amazing, thrilling, and fun way. So my email's here. I'm leaving tomorrow morning and I have a dinner thing at 6. So please take my email down because I want to meet all of you and talk to all of you. But I unfortunately have to bounce after the sun goes down and hang out with you a bit more. But thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. And those panels, mostly ecosystem builders. We do have one founder here. Is Jack Pan around? No? Cool. I haven't met you yet, so I'm glad you're here. Jack is going to tell you about his startup, which I think is actually came out of Scripps. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Nice to meet you too. And thanks everyone for having me again at BlueTech Week. So, what is a weird interface? My name is Jack. I received my training as an oceanographer here at Scripps, and currently I am a MPP fellow at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, working on various remote sensing projects. I think Matt asked me to serve on this panel to provide the entrepreneur perspective on blue tech innovation, the role clusters play in the blue economy. So I'm with a startup company called Ocean Motion Technologies, and we make a small-scale ocean wave energy device. And this device was specifically designed with ocean observation and ocean monitoring in mind. And so we're particularly targeting a wide range of off-grid, low-power applications in the blue economy, and our power solutions to pave the way for building up this ocean of things, or this big data infrastructure for the ocean, like what we have been talking about throughout the day. So this new paradigm will enable key stakeholder to enable it will enable key stakeholders and policymakers to have the capability to quickly respond to changing ocean conditions. So whether if it's monitoring for overfishing, predicting harmful algal blooms and ocean acidification, weather prediction, long-term monitoring for climate change, and etc. And there are lots of very capable companies and individuals who are contributing to the buildup of this ocean of things paradigm, and many are right here at Scripps and in the San Diego region. And most work done so far are focused on the autonomy and network amongst these autonomous platforms. And we have been more exclusively focused on working on the power component to support the technologies in the first 2 categories of this diagram. Another thing is this artists update this figure every year. So every year when I check this figure, it gets just more and more complex. Also another thing I want to mention is this project, this wave-powered ocean of things platform systems is mostly funded by the U.S. Department of Energy and a little bit from the National Science Foundation. We're not trying to sell you anything, but what we're really interested in is to speak with more end users and stakeholders so that we're not just doing another random technology demonstration, but actually work towards the end goal and serve impacted stakeholders. So now I think this might be something that's more relevant to this panel. Through our conversation with fellow entrepreneurs and folks who help organize clusters and accelerators, we realized that there's something that's not clearly articulated in the BlueTech sector, and that is what's the driving force and coordination mechanism behind our sector. And I didn't want to use those words, but really what the pedagogy is getting to at the end. I think this is fairly simple for the traditional tech sector, which is, we probably all know this already, it revolves around selling goods and services to collect more user data in order to sell more goods and services. And I think another growing sector that's sort of like the BlueTech sector is the space industry, which also has a presence here at BlueTech Week. And for many years, their entire industry is somewhat scattered, just like BlueTech today. But what's really different is then SpaceX came along and sort of provided this model to really make everything revolve around their launch events. And all the goods and services in that sector then are become for the sole purpose of launching payloads, essentially. And that became the driving force and the coordination mechanism. And then the launch is mapped to all sorts of applications and use cases. So with all of that said, maybe this is the way to think about BlueTech and the ocean technology sector in general. So our thesis is that the driving force and this coordination mechanism for the entire sector is about collecting more and more data in the ocean. And all of these three categories of ocean technologies are mostly there to support this effort. And then the collected data can be used to support all sorts of use cases and activities in the ocean, which then loops back to stimulate the advancement and progress in the three categories of technologies in BlueTech. And our company was really founded to support this framework. And it's based on our experience working in the field, seeing the need for more power to support more instruments and sensors and kind of tap into this underutilized power source for big data applications. And it looks more glamorous than it actually is. I was throwing up right afterwards. We have received a lot of help along the way to get us this far. And I think in light of this sea change of ocean data requirements and then the user needs for big data, BlueTech sectors and accelerator programs will play an ever increasingly pivotal role for driving this conversation. And as we continue to define the driving force and the coordination mechanism behind our entire sector, the organizations represented by our fellow panelists will continue to be very critical to leading these dialogues. And that's all I have so far. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack. Coming on the home stretch close, we have Margaret Pilaro from the Port of San Diego next. And oh, we have to PDF issues.
Don't come into Carl's sunset. Thank you very much for having me here today to talk about some exciting things that the Port of San Diego is doing and how we're all together supporting this blue economy ecosystem. I'm a project manager with the port, and I just started in February, so I may make up some answers if you give me tough questions. So just scroll down. Okay. So the port is a public benefit corporation that was established in 1962, and we're the fourth largest port in California. The district spans over 5 member cities, and we promote commerce, navigation, recreation, fisheries, environmental stewardship throughout the entire jurisdiction, which includes approximately 34 miles of waterfront and just over 14,000 acres of tidelands and submerged tidelands in and around San Diego Bay. The ports are uniquely positioned to act as a catalyst for the blue economy and to take advantage of the future business opportunities in this realm. Our unique role as landlord, regulator, operator, and environmental steward enable us to provide permit-ready infrastructure and assist with project entitlements. As a catalyst of the region's traditional blue economy, the port continues to be committed to fostering the sustainable development of these traditional uses, as well as new opportunities in order to diversify our portfolio and strengthen our collective impact. We've been hearing a lot today and yesterday, and certainly the things that drive TMA is that San Diego is home to a diverse and growing blue economy ecosystem. San Diego's existing port infrastructure, burgeoning scientific community, growing tech economy, geographic location, all contribute to the region's blue economy and have created a unique hub for blue technology innovation. The natural synergies among our unique perspectives and expertise are based on our collective desire to support sustainable ocean uses, which further fuels collaboration within this tech cluster. In 2015, the Port of San Diego established the Aquaculture and BlueTech program with the primary goal to reduce barriers to entry and facilitate development of emerging, sustainable aquaculture and port-related blue technology innovation. A year later, in 2016, the port established our Blue Economy Incubator, which seeks innovative proposals to address unique port environmental challenges and inform future blue economy opportunities. The success of our incubator is based on our core value proposition, combined with port-wide collaborative process which facilitates deployment of pilot projects for early stage companies through entitlements, assistance, and even funding to test technology in real world conditions. This combination sets us apart from similar incubators and accelerators. To date, the port has given $1.6 million in funding to support the launch of sustainable and blue technology pilot projects and has received about $160,000 in royalty payments that can be reinvested into supporting new pilot projects. We've just issued our third edition highlights report, which is available on our website. This is our current suite of our portfolio of incubator projects. We've got 9 of them currently, and they provide multiple co-benefits, including shoreline infrastructure, aquaculture, monitoring, and water and sediment remediation. Since its inception, we've received over 250 inquiries, and I will note that we did take a pretty big chunk of time off during the pandemic, just like most other entities. But we currently have about 25 proposals in the queue, half of which are advancing through our 4-step process. We receive inquiries through a rolling basis, and companies come to us through many channels, including from some of you in this room. And a successful proposal tends to come from a right-staged company that are ready to test prototypes in real-world port settings. I'm going to just introduce you to a couple of our companies now. Ecospheres is demonstrating a cost-effective technology to extract contaminants from marine sediment in port environments and may be an alternative to dredging or capping, especially in areas that are difficult to access, such as around piers and wharves. 9 units containing over 460 spears were deployed within Harbor Island's East Basin and America's Cup Harbor in order to evaluate the reduction of total PCBs relative to starting baseline concentration over a 2-year period. The spears are all actually going to be removed later on, well, in the end of the year, so next month, for final data analysis. And so we'll see how that went. Second project to highlight is a 2-year project demonstrating innovative bioenhancing shoreline armoring technology called Econcrete, which may serve as a replacement for traditional riprap along shorelines. In March 2021, 74 interlocking coastal lock units were installed in 2 locations on Harbor Island shoreline. These units are made from low-carbon concrete mixture that was tailored specifically for San Diego Bay. Thoughtfully placed, the units can create unique habitats such as tide pools, caves, and overhangs, which mimic different natural habitats often missing from artificial structures. Now, our latest monitoring event, which was about 14 months post-deployment, over 50 different species were found living in the units. The species composition continues to grow towards a richer, more diverse and natural community with a lower ratio of invasive to native species compared to nearby control sites. While the final report including structural and general condition of the units has not yet been completed, the project was the recipient of the 2022 Outstanding Airports and Ports Project Award given by the San Diego section of the American Civil Engineers. The third project, here's Sunken Seaweed. It was a San Diego company started by 2 marine biologists. They're testing 6 different algae species to support food production restoration and exploring use in bioremediation, carbon sequestration, biofuels, and bioplastics. The company was ready to scale up this successful operation, and last week was approved for a second round of funding and continued support of our project of the pilot. This further work will specifically focus on scaling for culinary markets. So thanks to our collaborative approach, the Blue Economy Incubator is providing a unique value proposition to accelerate innovation. From due diligence to installation, the successful launch of pilot projects involves various port departments and subject matter experts. The port engages with Blue Economy ecosystem and with spirit of collaboration and cross-pollination, not competition. That approach so far seems to be universally accepted and applied within our ecosystem. So together, we all can accomplish great things. So thank you very much for including me here today.
You have to do some magic on here. All right. All right, and last up we have Vanessa Scott from Scripps Oceanography, and be thinking about questions. Otherwise, when they're done, it's going to selfishly be all my own, and it's just going to be self-serving. So, please, Vanessa, go ahead.
Thanks, Alex. All right, I'm setting the timer, so I'm not going to be standing between all of us. A sunset with a green flash, I'm thinking, and some good beer. So with that, I will share with you a little bit of an overview about some of the awesome things I get to do at Scripps to help support our companies and spin-out companies, our students and scientists as entrepreneurs, and connecting them with companies like many of you for research collaboration, licensing, talent recruitment, etc. So here's a snapshot of some of the programs I support at Scripps. Really what we've tried to do in my role is to connect scientists and students to companies for research collaboration, for our unique testing facilities, for talent recruitment. And we do a lot of things through the Scripps Corporate Alliance, which many of you guys are a member of. We have about 35 companies that are members that engage annually, and we kind of help support connecting them to many different scientists and lab groups at Scripps to have these conversations. And then I also get to lead entrepreneurship and startup support, which we have many different programs to help support our scientists and give them the skills that they need to explore potential commercialization of their technologies. So some of examples of our spinouts is Jack here with Ocean Motion Technologies. Also, I think both of these other companies were already referenced today. Delmar Oceanographic has the Wire Walker, which is a great sensor platform powered by wave energy. And then MRV Systems, who help support and make the Argo floats, which you heard about earlier from Natalie. So this is just a few of many different companies and spinouts that we get the opportunity to work with here at Scripps. Some other things in kind of the synthetic biology space, we had a compound called selenosporamide A that is now in phase 3 clinical trials that's licensed by Bristol Myers Squibb to cure glioblastoma. So that's just a small example of a different type of technology. And then some of the different programs and resources that we kind of tee up here at Scripps to help support our students and scientists. We've got our newsletter that's not so glamorous, but we also have our Accelerator program that we've run for a few years now to really help kind of be the bridge for getting all the technologies out of the lab and into the market, which I'll talk about more. And then the Triton Innovation Challenge, which I know Jack has participated in. A lot of our other startups that actually came through the StartBlue Accelerator took advantage of this. And it's a great example of kind of the opportunities that we get to leverage as being part of greater UC San Diego, because we do this in partnership with Rady School of Management, the Institute for the Global Entrepreneur, which is part of the Jacobs School of Engineering. So we really get to kind of build interdisciplinary teams across campus, connect our entrepreneurs with maybe someone from the business school to provide different types of support and create interesting startups. So StartBlue is an accelerator, again, led by Rady School of Management and Scripps. to kind of marry the business and BlueTech expertise and give our startups the opportunities to build companies and explore commercialization. It was born out of this greater Start Our Accelerator series program that's led by Rady School of Management. It was started back in 2012, and I think there's about 100 companies that have come out now, received over 100 million in funding. The great thing is we didn't have to start at scratch to really develop the program and methodology. We kind of built off the Start Our series and obviously tweaked it to make it very much more focused to BlueTech and doubled the time to make it much more time intensive for all of us. But it's good. So overall goals of StartBlue is really to support early stage ocean focused startups. So new business formation, connecting them with non-dilutive funded since they're still pretty early stage, and then really get them to the point to be able to take advantage of later stage accelerator programs like the Port of San Diego, where they can test their prototypes. And as you can see from all of our conversations today, we have so many great partners, many of who are in the room today. And I think take-home message from today overall for me too is people, programs, and partners that we all can work together to really increase and expand the workforce development opportunities and startups in the BlueTech space. So we're really grateful for our partners who help us in many different ways to help support our entrepreneurs. Here's kind of the pillars that StartBlue is built on. We do a 6-week training kind of business boot camp in the fall, which we're nearing the end of for cohort 2. And that's led by an instructor by the Rady School of Management, really focus on the NSFI core curriculum to really give them their go-to-market strategy, talk to customers, kind of flesh out their business plans. Then from January to June, we really connect them into kind of the regional BlueTech industry with site visits to the Port of San Diego, to local companies like Teledyne, to really have deeper conversations and workshops on funding and SBIRs. We can connect them to makerspaces. Our mentors, similar to Maritime Blue, is really one of our hugest value adds to our entrepreneurs, which I'll talk about a little bit more. And then opportunities for fundraising like the Triton Innovation Challenge. So we are not limited to people from UC San Diego. So we have applications and accept teams from across the San Diego region. But since we are funded by the EDA grant, we do have a regional focus to build out the workforce team here in San Diego. Again, our niche is really new form startups and early stage ocean focused teams. And we obviously want to prioritize equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we're really looking for a diverse set of applicants. We also have a small and mighty team with a good combination, power-packed from Rady and Scripps. You can see here that really supports our entrepreneurs in many different ways. John York is our lead instructor for the fall programming, and Chris Ward leads our mentor program. So our mentors are very important and integral to the success of our entrepreneurs. We do several interviews when we accept teams into the program to really do a deep dive on what their needs are and match them up with mentors accordingly. And sometimes even when the program changes from the fall to the winter to the spring, we'll reevaluate and find out if they kind of need new areas of expertise to continue to grow. So they have primary mentors and teams of mentors to really support them throughout the program. And we're very grateful for these volunteers and their time. And we also have a great depth and breadth of program advisors, some of which are in here today as well, that we really appreciate to help inform our curriculum and also the application process and who we select for our cohorts and our accelerator. So just a brief overview of kind of our first cohort that finished, was that May? These guys were virtual the whole time pretty much. And we had our first in-person event besides the few site visits we had in the spring for the final demo day. So some people actually didn't even meet in person until then. But there was a really great group of entrepreneurs, very different technologies and sectors, as you can see. Most, I would say, had an affiliation with UC San Diego in some capacity. Half of them were founded by women. So we were able to get at least some diversity in our cohort. And just a high-level overview of some of their successes. They, raised a lot of money. They won a lot of prize money, over $400,000, and then also a lot of SBIR grants of $7.5 million. CalWave successfully completed their first pilot demonstration of a wave energy generator here off Scripps Pier, which was really cool. It was run concurrent with the program, and they're actually going off to PackWave in next year, I think it is, which is going to be operated by DOE. Algeon was also part of Washington Maritime Blue. They went into a later stage accelerator program, and Kaipono has successfully finished a pilot test in Maui, which you can't read. And here is our second cohort of startups that just started in October. Again, a very diverse set of technologies and solutions at different stages kind of in their maturity as well, but we're really excited to see what they're going to do. Again, we have, I think, 1/3 of them are female founders. The majority do have an affiliation with UC San Diego. And a great group. So they've kind of, a few of our startups have been over at the table throughout the day. I know some are here right now and will be part of the networking reception. So definitely encourage you all to say hello. I know that they're really interested and keen to connect with all of you and learn more about the industry and potential applications and ways that they can partner with you. And that is kind of sums up what I have. That's just the QR code for StartBlue. I highly encourage, we would love to talk to you, whether you have a startup that you're thinking about starting in this space, whether you want to be a mentor in some capacity, whether you just want to sign up for updates and be invited to our programming, which we're doing a lot more in person. And also if you just want to become part of our community, I highly encourage you to do so. I'm very grateful to our funders and supporters. So with that, I think I'm okay on my 10 minutes. And I look forward to answering questions on the panel.
All right, yeah, so everyone come on up. And do we have any questions that want to kick it off from the audience? Go ahead.
Among the innovators, the incubators, and the investors. So do you feel like there are not enough innovators? Is there too much investment money around there? Are the incubators the bottleneck? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that and where you think this entire space should end up eventually.
So I think you can hear me. There you go. When I first started at Maritime Blue 2 years ago, there were maybe, I could count on one hand the amount of investors that are focusing on the blue economy. Now it's just kind of exploded. And I think one of the reasons is certainly the supply chain issues that we had throughout COVID, and we're still trying to really get through that. The other is, I think there's been a lot of apprehension in the space to invest in the blue economy. We don't have historical data around big exits in the maritime industry, so that's another mitigating factor as well. I think there are more and more people looking at the maritime space as a place to, really put some attention. And Maritime Blue, we're taking all of our founders to South by Southwest in March to really kind of plant our flag and say, hey, we belong in the startup space just like everybody else. And that's our way to really usher that in. So I think to your question, there's more appetite, and it's happening at an accelerated pace, faster than I think. I'm biased, obviously, but I think faster than any other industry. Maybe Jim, do you have any?
I do.
Jim always has thoughts.
I don't think, is this on?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't really hear. There's like no fold back. It's not like a studio or something. So I don't think we have a shortage of investors. I certainly don't think we have a shortage of innovators. What I think we have a shortage of is product market fit. And I think that if we can solve that problem, if we're not like a whole bunch of technologies that are going out there and just looking for some problems to solve in the marketplace. So we certainly need to have some kind of demand effect. And I think that's kind of around the point when startups get funded anyway. So I think we need to determine what the needs are from the latency point of view. So from lab to actual market. And we need not just use cases, but we actually need real demand, like actual people saying, hey, I need this product. And I think it's beyond just the concepts of customer discovery, blah blah blah. Right? I went through iCore, that kind of thing. Right? We need more than that. We need to actually physically go there and demonstrate. We need to knock on doors. We need to maybe even tear down some doors. And I think that we've got to become a bit more iconoclastic, really. I mean, we're kind of cross-disciplinary, so people don't trust us, right? Because we can't be pigeonholed very easily. So I think we've got to do more. And we've already got more stuff. And I think investors are already investing in those areas that are either adjacent to what we're doing, or they don't even know that they're investing in BlueTech, but they're probably investing in BlueTech, right? So I think that's part of the problem. So, yeah.
So, go ahead. Yeah.
So I joined the port from the aquaculture world, and I will admit I have a lot of scar tissue from dealing with permitting. And I think that might be a bottleneck that we may come across. I showed those great pictures of e-concrete, and in order for us to put those in, we had to agree that if they weren't really right, we had to pull it all out and put it back. So, which seems really counter to what we all want to do. So I think that when we look at the regulatory environment and permitting and how much comfort there might be in that space, we're going to have to do a lot of work to bring them along with us, because that, I think, is going to could be a real sinkhole.
Go ahead.
I agree with everyone else. I just would add that I think we need more faces and more people in this space. I mean, obviously working at Scripps, we have a lot of people here that have expertise here, but we're, open to the whole region. And I'd like to see more of an influx of applications. I think it's along the thread of trying to reach out to communities that aren't adjacent to the ocean, that have an interest, and how do we create that interest? And how do we need to create the demand so that people are interested because they know that these are companies that can make money. So I think it's all kind of a threaded conversation, but yeah, that's where I would love to see more of, and creating those partnerships inland and kind of further out branching to be able to connect with different audiences.
Sure. So basically, from a startup founder entrepreneur perspective, I feel like the BlueTech sector is lacking kind of a unicorn model. Yes, there are small businesses. There are definitely a lot of enterprises people can invest in. There, like you mentioned earlier, there's enough founders, there are enough innovators and investors. But really, what's the thing that would drive the innovation system, an innovation ecosystem? I think that thing is missing, that we often see in the tech sector, and we really need a model to go forward. And it's programs like yours would help facilitate that process and discovery. What's the thing that would drive everything?
So just to put that in perspective, Jack, right? So there's, I think, more than enough dry powder in the investment community to deploy to BlueTech. We've seen about a 430% growth since 2016 in the BlueTech sector. From a investment point of view, that translates to probably double that amount. So I think it's that we don't have a capacity issue, we don't have a capability issue, so we don't have an investment issue. So then, what is it? And I think the issue, the unpopular opinion of today. I think the issue actually is parochialism. I think we need to actually branch out of just thinking that we're groups of individuals doing work here and there. And I think we need to have, as a unified front, say, maybe it's not just BlueTech, but maybe it's, I don't know, we can accept a couple of ag tech teams as well, because they're doing stuff that's upstream that could maybe affect stuff that comes downstream to the oceans. Or maybe there's a use case that's in a, I don't know, biomedical field that, oh, wow, that's a really cool software as a service. Maybe we can use it to drive throughput at the ports. I think that there's pilot projects that are yet to be uncovered, and I think that those are probably out there and just kind of in this undiscovered country. And I think we wrestle with this as a sector if we call ourselves, as if we call the blue economy a sector.
I want to jump in and ask a question. Sorry, Pierre, I know I'm interrupting
No,
you.
go ahead.
Is it trying to boil the ocean, so to speak, by being BlueTech? Like, I'll look at us. We have we have a company doing cell-based tuna fish.
Yeah.
We have a company and they're considered food tech. They're invested in by food tech investors. We have one using coccolithophores to make carbon negative cement. They are in built environment. We have one doing CO2 into protein, and they are carbon capture utilization. It's not BlueTech in the minds of people outside of who like are interested in ocean.
Alex, we're boiling the ocean.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay. If anyone disagrees, please jump in. Though.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody has a different. I think we all have a pretty standardized definition of the blue economy, blue tech, yada yada. And I mean, TMA is a perfect example of that, right? It's everything that touches water, so it's not just ocean tech, it's not just this. And if we had a really great company that was tangential, I'm sure, like we had Kaipona Solutions, that was a stormwater drain to clean water that was going to the ocean. It's helping the ocean, right? But it's not in the ocean, so. I don't know. But maybe it's confusing to like the investor community, or maybe it's just confusing to the outside community in general. And I think to everybody's point, and Jim, your point, if we have a bit more united messaging externally, I think that could help advance all of us to kind of like the broader world, because everybody knows SaaS and everybody knows deep tech and clean energy. But if we could have maybe like a more unified messaging externally, that would help.
Okay. Want to go ahead, Pierre?
Yeah. So first, I'm going to have a comment. When I started, in 2008, the Biomarine network, it was in Scripps. And we had this type of conversation with Tony M, the former director. Say, yeah, what you want to do? I say, I want, to break down the silos of the industry. And the blue economy is really a service provider for all the type of silos that we have: food, health, space, industry. And what you guys have done, in California and here, I see, Josh, I've been talking with Jim and Scripps. It's really unique, because in Europe, we have tons of incubators, tons of accelerators, but it's pure communication. Most of, the startups that are going outside this incubator accelerator, they're coming to us, say, well, we need money. So what's the point of accelerating if you don't fund the companies? Because this is the missing point. And most of the companies, they can't find the seed funding, which is where you guys have mastered, the vision and accomplished something that is much better than what we have in the rest of the world. Now, the question is, when you arrive at, the end of the seed funding stage, how are you going to bridge, with Series A, private equity, VC, and how do you envisage that, and how are you going to structure, the next step? Because this is very important also for the startups to look into the future and to exit, the seed investor towards, more non-dilutive or dilutive. That's a conversation we had with Jim, investor type. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I just want to address the fact that sometimes, Pierre, some of our startups don't even know how to calculate price elasticity of demand, and they don't even know what a cap table is. So we need to get them past that point before we start really making any kind of headway into funding thesis. But yeah.
One of the things that we're doing at Maritime Blue is building an infrastructure by which we could support founders at every stage. So we can't expect that we're going to keep filling the accelerator with new startups if we don't have a vehicle to help them at the very early stage when they're just coming up with an idea. And so one of the things that we do is we're coming up with hackathons and challenges on top of the accelerator, on top of the incubator work. And then when we talked about the summit sort of being that post support, but we have other things that we do to help companies post program, whether it's putting them in front of our joint innovation projects or where they collaborate with each other. And the other thing I will say is our program's a bit unique, where we do sort of take companies that don't really fit the model of like BlueTech. I mentioned earlier we took an aluminum shipbuilder. We took a company called Sea Potential, these amazing women that were marine biologists that decided they didn't see enough people of color in the industry, and created a consultancy firm where they go to Maersk and Tote Maritime and create programs by which they can hire a more diverse workforce. I mean, that's not a venture scale business, but certainly belongs in the maritime blue space. So we have to create these programs and entities and things and off ramps where we can support companies at every stage. And at least at Maritime Blue, we're trying to do as much as we can to support that.
Hi, I'm Roy Robinson. I'm with Excipio Energy. I'll be talking tomorrow, but you guys, very interesting panel, and love what all of you guys are doing. I love to see the integration, because that's our whole company is built around integrating all of the offshore systems together. One of the things I'm curious about, though, is all of the stuff I've been hearing up there, at least so far, was, by my definition, very small scale. Do you guys have anything you're working on that's going to be a large scale deployment, or any plans to try to develop into that? Or are you just trying to get the startups out the door and then let them try to figure it out on their own?
Define large scale.
Okay. $200-300 million, 10-year runway.
Sure. I mean, Pure Watercraft went through our first program.
But I'm saying, that's
sure.
to build anything of any size and any utility offshore, that's what it costs.
Yeah. No, we're studying offshore wind right now, but I mean, Pure Watercraft took 125 from GE and is now building outboard electric motors for the pleasure craft. But I mean, to your point, I think what I said earlier is, like, we don't have, unless you're Flexport, you're not $1 billion company. And I could count on maybe one or two hands how many $1 billion unicorns there are in the startup space. That's part of the problem. Is, to Jim's point, we need to build better quality founders, make them more agile, make them more adapt, give them better education. And we're all up here trying to do that, right? I certainly spend the first 2 months teaching them a financial model and then also using it. So we spend an awful lot of time just boosting up the quality of the founders, not just the quality of the companies.
And the other thing this was addressed to you. You said you were going down to Texas for South by Southwest.
Yeah.
I think you'd be better served going down for the OTC in May in Houston.
Good point.
Offshore technology.
If there's no question, I'll jump in with one. So one thing I spend a lot of time with my startups thinking about is working at the speed of venture capital. And not every business is a venture capital business. That's very true as well. But I'm wondering if we focus on that, thinking about startups, like, how do you all think about it as a program? Because when I see pilots that are 18 months, 2 years, honestly, for us, we would see a dead company, because that is like the runway of 1.5 rounds of funding in the typical venture capital model. So how are you thinking of working with companies on doing rigorous testing, which is needed for sure, but also moving at a speed that a startup often has to do?
I mean, we spend a lot of time working with folks like Naval X. I know Jim spends a lot of time, and Scripps spends some time with DoD partners, or not DoD partners, but other 3-letter agencies. And I think that's a great way to, I mean, they're flush with cash right now. So it's a great way to get non-dilutive funding to get your idea off the ground. Aquaga spent, I don't know, first 3 years of their life getting grants from NSF and NOAA and others to do their, PFAS forever chemical stuff. But that could also be a hindrance too, right? I think you and I talked about this before, of like, if they're spending all this time getting grants, well, how are they finding customers, right? So we spend a lot of time doing both and trying to focus on both.
Not all companies are going to be venture companies, like you said, Alex, but I think that we need to focus more on stage appropriateness. So if they're at a stage when they're not ready to move at the speed of venture capital, then they're probably not ready for venture capital. So we need to probably get them to that point. And I think that the only way to get them to that point is, any kind of service value additions that we can provide as accelerators. If it's paid pilot projects, great. But, we have to get them to a point where they're making enough revenue to attract venture capital. And sometimes that might be some patient money. Sometimes it might be some impatient money, but then maybe there might be a diamond in the rough and we can see something that maybe other venture capitalists don't see, and we take that bet. But I think we do need to get companies to a stage where they're thinking about their own appropriateness to that stage of development in their business. And I think that there's too many startups that want to race to venture capital before they need to actually raise venture capital money.
Vanessa, Margaret.
In this space, I think we're all aware that the ocean is a really hard place to do testing. There's a lot of money that needed to do R&D, to feasibility studies, environmental impact assessments. You know, I mean, CalWave, they started their company in 2015 and they just finished their first demonstration, right? So it takes a long time and a lot of money to get up to speed to get to that point. And, you know, people do want to see viability. And we, you know, I think most companies in the BlueTech space want to do it in a sustainable way. You know, the UN Decade of Ocean Science is about sustainable development. So not to say that, you know, being speedy about things, you can't do things sustainably, but I think there is a lot of science that informs, you know, are we making bad impacts into the ocean? How do we do this in a way that isn't making a bad impact to the ocean? And when you're looking at big technologies in the ocean, you do need to do pilot demonstrations that sometimes take multiple years to get the kind of information that you need to take the next step. So I don't know that we don't have companies in this sector that we can do in a way to like get to the speed of venture capital, but I think venture capital has to look at us a little bit differently. Not that we have any less value. I think we have more value, especially in the context of all climate change, of everything going on at COP right now, everything going on in everything that we know. But how do they look at us in a way that's like a longer investment return?
We have 5 minutes till sunset, guys. Burning questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of focus is put on venture-funded efforts or startups. But my observation is that there's a lot of there's an ecosystem already in place. You know, small farmers, mom and pops that are already participating in the blue economy without having access to the technology. And they're really struggling to get to that stage, whether it's a matter of money or wherewithal, or technological wherewithal. So what can you say about helping this whole ecosystem get to the next stage without necessarily, you know, starting a company to do it?
Yeah, I mean, we've taken a couple of food startup companies in our programs, and it's a heavier lift for them, admittedly, right? There's not a lot of appetite, pun intended, to fund food companies in the maritime space. We've helped to mitigate that. We've done more, I think, with those companies. For example, we have a company that went through our last program called Kitchen. They make something called cicerons, or kelp puffed snacks. They're so good. We ended up getting them into the arena where the Seahawks play and the Sounders play, and we ended up getting them in where the Mariners play. And that was our way of like fast tracking them into market. What better way than, you know, a bunch of hungry fans drinking beer to eat kelp snacks, right? So as a result, like, they're growing at a clip that's just ridiculous. So that's how we're able to sort of go around that, is help prop them up in different ways.
I'll also plug one of our other incubator groups is a shellfish nursery. And so one of the things that we're finding on the West Coast for shellfish availability is that there's a seed shortage. And so San Diego is a great place to grow that. There's plenty of food, and the climate is that they grow really quickly to get to farms. So it's filling a niche that the small farmers certainly do need and must have in order to be successful. But it's just finding a different way to do it. And, you know, if you think about, oh, do I want to eat shellfish from the Port of San Diego? Don't worry about it, because oysters filter 40 gallons of water a day. And so by the time they get to their final farm, they've the systems from what they picked up in San Diego are not there. And although we do have pretty clean water, so I just want to put that out there.
Last question. Okay, I'll throw it out. Oh, go ahead.
Commentary about integrating incubators and accelerators with state government, federal government, non-federal government services, ISP, on working all together in unison to help these startup companies. Like, I'm from the Bay Area, I know CalWave quite well, and it's wonderful what you're doing for them down here. And then I'm working with them on getting them into the international marketplace. We really need to work at now biased in the state of California here, work together at the state, federal level, working with the incubators, the ports, etc., to help all of these companies. Josh is the model, and I keep inflating his ego over there.
You don't need to do that, but thank you.
Because I do view that as the model that we should adopt. Do it right.
we're going to be opening up 2 more offices, one in Sydney and one in Barcelona, over the coming 12 months or so. So I think that having things like landing pad opportunities for startups is going to be kind of crucial for companies that are going in any direction. So they can go from Sydney to Australia to the United States, or to Barcelona, or to from Europe to the United States, and we can take advantage of that, and we will have pilot projects available all over the world. So I think that for the sake of scaling, I think that we have the potential, at least, to do very well with companies, and we're familiar with CalWave too. So if they want to have those opportunities, just let me know. I think all of our programs have something very, very unique to bring to the table, and I don't think that we do have an opportunity to be a unified front, and I kind of said that earlier in my opening remarks to the initial question. We have to provide this heavy lift, otherwise we're going to atrophy. We're going to have startup companies that are going to go, geez, well, there's Y Combinator. Why can't I just go to Y Combinator instead of going to accelerators which have domain expertise and understand the blue space? I can aggregate a dozen investors at Y Combinator. Why shouldn't I do that? So we have this unique opportunity, and we have a unique approach, and I think we need to move together to do that.
All right. Last
I
comment.
was just
Last
say, when
comment.
I grow up, I want to be like Jim. So.
All right, everyone. We are
I think it's mutual, Joe.
5 minutes before sunset. We have hit our target goal. Thank you to the panel. I appreciate you so much for giving all your insights.